Okay, I see we are live. Welcome everyone to our weekly Zoom meeting. We are Skeptics and Atheist Society of Kenya, and our YouTube channel is Atheists Hangout 2. Today, we are discussing a hot button issue in our continent right now. It is anti-immigrant backlash in Kenya and Africa. Anti-immigrant backlash in Kenya and Africa. I had invited our one active South African member. There are other South Africans who are on our WhatsApp group, but they're not as active in our meetings. So one of them is Bolelang Rakepile from Cape Town. I really wanted him to give his contribution on this because he's on the ground. Unfortunately, I just got a blue tick. I didn't get a response, so I don't know if he'll make it or not. Maybe he had alternative plans. Nevertheless, we are going to delve into the issue. Predominantly, we'll focus on South Africa because they were the ones that were trending this week. Then, of course, we'll mention Kenya a little towards the end, the anti-immigrant backlash that may have occurred in our country, if at all you think so. I think it's like a drop in the ocean compared to what has been happening in South Africa. That's why I want it to be a footnote towards the end of the meeting. Predominantly, let's concentrate on South Africa. Now, before we begin our contributions, let me lay the groundwork. We had 3 subtopics for the discussion, which is the causes of anti-immigrant backlash. And I gave a dichotomy of, what did I write? Hatred, is it hatred or illegal entry and acts? I gave that, but of course there are many reasons why there might be anti-immigrant backlash. So we'll start with that subtopic. And then after that, we'll look at the effects of anti-immigrant backlash in South Africa and in the countries that are targeted by the South Africans. So the other African countries will also look at that. And then we'll look at solutions. How do we resolve this conundrum that the continent is dealing with? So those are the 3 questions that will guide our interaction. Hopefully we'll finish within an hour. Not hopefully, you know, when you say hopefully, you leave it to chance. We will finish in an hour's time. So at 9:35 p.m. Kenyan time, we'll call the meeting to an end. So let's try and condense our interactions, our contributions, now that we are trying to be more efficient. Now, what is the background? The background is what has been trending this week. There was a June 30th deadline given by anti-immigrant proponents in South Africa over the past month, right? Not even the past month, let's say the past couple of months. They said by 30th of June, all illegal immigrants in South Africa exit. They called it Abahambe, which is a Zulu word for go back home. You know, South Africans, their accent, all the R's turn into A. Go back to your country. Go and fix your country. Don't bring your problems here in South Africa. So that was a deadline, an ultimatum that was given. And a number of foreign businesses, Black-owned foreign businesses were targeted by these anti-immigrant proponents. They targeted the businesses, they looted property, they even harmed certain individuals. There was the case of some other lady who was removed half naked from her house to leave the country because the time had come for them to exit. So things were really grim. On top of that, we had a lot of vigilantism. I remember watching several TikTok videos in which some South African anti-immigrant proponent will just go speak to an immigrant, a Black immigrant at that, and then ask them, why are you here? Like, how do you have papers? If the person says they have papers, when did you get them? You know, they interrogate, and then at the end of it, they will still say that those papers are not legitimate. You don't deserve to be here. You should leave. Okay, so we had that. There was a police crackdown. About 900 people were arrested on that 30th of June because they were supposed to be peaceful protests. They ended up not being peaceful protests. Then the president himself, Cyril Ramaphosa, gave guidelines on how to deal with illegal immigrants. He said that there would be dedicated courts to fast track the deportation process and to deport those undocumented workers, or to give them documents where possible. On top of that, many African countries paid for the repatriation of their citizens. Here in Kenya, we had, I think, about 120 Kenyans who came back from South Africa, and they look broken because now this is a life that is distorted completely. Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, Ghanaians, etc., also repatriated their citizens. There's just been a lot of unrest in South Africa, and this is not new. From as far back as 2008, there has been xenophobia or xenophobic attacks. Now, that word is actually very debatable. Some people are saying, some leaders are claiming there's no xenophobia in South Africa. There's just a process of enforcing the law. We have illegal immigrants. Then others are calling it Afrophobia. So this leads me now to our first question, the subtopic, the first subtopic, which is, what is causing this anti-immigrant backlash, according to you? And do you think that we actually have xenophobia in South Africa, or is it that they just want the law to be followed? What is causing this backlash? Feel free to raise your hands. All right, Morioki, go ahead.
Thanks. For me, what I'll say, I think they feel that their jobs have been taken from them. These South Africans, they feel that these immigrants are taking their jobs from them. Yeah, thanks.
All right. The foreigners are taking our jobs. A very common sentiment. So, job insecurity, unemployment could be one of the causes. Let's hear from someone else. Don't be shy.
Hello.
Yes, Hugo, go ahead.
Trying to find the button to raise a hand. I can't see it. To me, I'm going to say something many people will not like, but I don't think there's xenophobia in South Africa. Whatever is happening there, there's a small glimpse of the same in Kenya. If you see how we treat Somalis, how we treat Somalis is the same as how they treat their foreigners there. The problem is there's unemployment and safety issues in South Africa, and because of those things, they will blame someone. And that's a scapegoat for everyone. If there's no employment, you'll always seek to blame people. Here in Nairobi, we blame the Congolese, we blame the Rwandese when we have so many issues. So I don't think there's no xenophobia. It's just an issue of policies and unemployment. That's just it.
Aha. Hugo believes that it is a snippet, a microcosm of what is even happening here in Kenya. And that's a scapegoat that people are using. Those migrants are a scapegoat. Right. Let's hear from Deve and then El Maestro.
Thanks, Dorcas. I will go say yes, it is resources. Obviously, you will know that the economy is not doing very well if you see the more we other each other. Oh, you're not my tribe, you're not my this, you're not in my family, all that. It's because there is not enough to go around. So these sentiments are, you can call it the canary in the mine. They are your first warning that the economy is not doing very well. And of course, the politicians would like to point a finger to something else so that you forget what the politician is supposed to be doing for you, and then so that you can be blaming the other person. So, but I think that more it is resources. So if there was enough resources to go around, and the leadership was making sure that we had enough resources to go around, we might be more willing to accommodate our brothers and sisters from across the borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndebe. Very well said. Let's hear from El Maestro.
Okay, I was left my phone just for 2 minutes, so I didn't hear the question, but I wanted to contribute. But maybe you can, what was the question again? Before I also add to what I wanted to say.
Causes. What is causing this xenophobia?
Okay, the process.
Yes.
What I can say, think that Hugo has said, maybe this unemployment things, but there is something Hugo has said, saying that there is no xenophobia in South Africa. You know, the first time I heard of these things, that of South Africans who are trying to chase away the foreigners. I had this thing the first, was it in 2023 or 2024? In somewhere. Then there's a certain someone who is I had a perspective from a certain person who is maybe I don't know if he was from Zimbabwe or he was from Zambia, but a neighboring country of South Africa. You're saying that in South Africa, this is not xenophobia. This is a black on black crime. He said this is not xenophobia, because when you dissect this thing, South Africans, you can see they are chasing away fellow Africans. They're not chasing away Europeans or Americans or people from outside Africa. They are chasing away Africans. They are fellow black people. And this part of me was saying that this is not xenophobia. This is black people against themselves. He called it black on black crime. Because I was also wondering, why aren't they chasing away the white people? They're not chasing away the black, their fellow Africans, the Nigerians, the Kenyans, Zimbabweans, their fellow Africans, which made these guys say that there's no xenophobia. As for me, I don't know the actual reason, but when I dissect the reasons that I've been hearing, it's just failure from the South African government to provide employment to their people, and also corruption is always one of the reasons for such things happening. So I will agree, if they are not chasing away foreigners who are white, but they are not chasing away foreigners who are their fellow black people, that's can that really be xenophobia?
All right. Thank you, El Maestro, for that contribution. You are agreeing with Hugo, but for very different reasons. Now, let me give my contribution on what I believe are the causes of anti-immigrant backlash, and then we can proceed to the second subtopic. Let's start to think about it, which is, what are the effects of this anti-immigrant backlash? What is it doing to South Africa? What is it doing to African countries that are targeted? Now, what do I think? I will disagree with El Maestro and Hugo. I believe that there is xenophobia. South Africa is the epitome of xenophobia. If we don't have xenophobia in South Africa, then there's no xenophobia everywhere. We can argue about the shade of xenophobia, which is Afrophobia, since they're only targeting the blacks and they're not considering the white settlers or the Indian settlers. We can say that Afrophobia is a segment of xenophobia. What is xenophobia? Xenophobia is the hatred, dislike, or disdain of foreign people. Are these people foreign? Yes. They're not against all foreigners. It's racially based, but it's still foreigners. So in my view, there is xenophobia. Those politicians in South Africa who are arguing that there is no xenophobia, they are gaslighting us in our faces. Shame on them. Now, what do I believe is causing this backlash? I agree with all of your arguments, and especially that component of immigrants being a scapegoat for systems that are not working. State capture. There was a president of the ANC party, actually ANC has been ruling South Africa ever since they got independence in 1994, called Jacob Zuma, who engaged in state capture. He, together with some Indian brothers called the Gupta brothers, looted massive state resources to their private pockets. The billions of dollars that they looted could have been used to create employment, to build schools, to foster education and healthcare. And these are the causes of poverty. So that brings me to one of the major causes of this anti-immigrant backlash. It is poverty or weak economic conditions in South Africa. And the person that feels it the most is the black man in South Africa. They are at the bottom of the economic ladder when we are looking at the citizens. And then the black immigrants are below the black South Africans in their psyche. Okay, I remember Trevor Noah spoke about this in some podcasts. He said that when you have much, when you are wealthy, you can give away resources here and there, and you don't feel anything. But when you are struggling, like when his mother was utterly broke, I think she had, is it 50 rand left? And then she took that 50 rand and gave it to a beggar in the streets. Trevor Noah was pissed off because the meager resources left were used on someone else instead of them. So this is the case with Black South Africans. They are poor. They are struggling financially. They are 1 in 3 South Africans are unemployed. South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world. So what do? They punch down or they punch across. They don't punch up. They don't go to the root of the problem, which is the elite, which is state capture. They don't go demonstrating at the Gupta premises owned over there, or they don't go to the white elites who benefited from colonial apartheid, segregation, where they own most of the land. I hear 70% of the land is white owned in South Africa, and even the mines, other major corporations that make money in South Africa are white owned. They don't go protesting there. They go for this cheap shot called immigrants. So that is my view. I think corruption, poor governance, those are the reasons why this problem is coming about, and they're clouding it with this issue of illegal immigrants. Finally, crime. Some of them are saying that when immigrants, those Black immigrants, come to their countries, they commit crimes and they pollute the places where they live. They are overrun. I remember Vusi Thembekwayo, a very influential South African speaker, was taking that position. But I disagree with it, because when I look at the statistics, they don't support this assertion. Statistics say that immigrants account for 4% of the population, while 75% of the crimes committed in South Africa are done by South African nationals. South Africans have always been known to be struggling with the crime issue, and it is also predominantly coming from unemployment, inequality, systemic violence, corruption in the police regime, gang culture, you see, things like those. So it's the systemic issues that are the problem. And to me, I feel like this issue of illegal immigrants is just clouding those systemic issues. Thank you. Now, I see 2 hands have gone up. Maybe we are proceeding to the next subtopic, effect, or maybe you want to comment on something that I said or something somebody else said. Let's hear from Ndeve first.
Thanks, Dorcas. So first of all, let me say something maybe a bit controversial, but you can take it, everybody can take it whichever way they take it. I am not surprised that when we are frustrated with our government, we take it on each other. We don't take it on the government and other people who have privileged themselves. And I'm going to say that some of the privileges, and one of the privileges you can see clearly in South Africa, is the skin color privilege. Even the poor white South African is privileged. They are not going to be touched by other poor Black people because of the skin color. We, I think it is us Black people. By the way, I also see it here. We have got barbecues, and you will see that somebody white has come to our barbecue, and we are, oh wow, you came. And when we go to their barbecues, it is nobody. I don't say, wow, never you came to our barbecue. So we have to look at ourselves. And if we were to look at ourselves, we could probably be able to solve our problem with our neighbors coming to visit us or coming to live among us. Because if you say it is his fault, it is her fault, you're not saying the other person, because they are a little bit more brown, they are Indians or they are Arabs and they are a little bit more brown than us. What exactly are you thinking about? What exactly is your anger? What are you thinking about? You're only thinking about, oh, I can go up after the Black guy because they are Black like me. They are worse off than me. But the white guy or the brown guy, I'm not going to touch because, well, they brought me God. They brought me God, so they are closer to God. I'm not going to touch them because they are closer. It is just, for me, I always look at it and it's just so convoluted. I don't. Maybe when you are in Kenya, you haven't seen it stuck as when we are here and we are among, we are behaving among these people, and then you see how they treat you when you are among them. And I'm not saying that they don't treat us well. I'm not saying that. Of course, you will be treated badly by the odd person, or you will see a few things. But we ought to also think how we think, how we view things is very, very important. And you can see it very clearly in South Africa. I bet you maybe in Kenya, you probably also see it, but you ignore it because that is how we think. And I do not know whether it has to do with who brought us religion, or it has to do with just our inferiority, that the white person came and they said, okay, look, we are white, we are superior, this is where it starts. Or is it because of the resources that we say, okay, whiteness means they have resources, so I step back and I regulate myself, how I think among these people. I'm not saying that I have got the answers. I'm just saying that this is what I observe. And once we can solve why we look at it this way, why we behave this way, then maybe we can start saying by saying that, okay, everybody out of my house, enough, I have been feeding you, all of you, brown, red, white, black, out of my house, enough of it, go. But if you cannot kick all of them out, you are going to kick out preferentially. And it is not because the white person has, let us say they are employing 50 people. So you are not going to kick them out because they are an employer. They are not just an expatriate taking jobs, but they are an expatriate coming, they have a factory, they have got some industry, and they hire people, or they have got a big shamba, they employ 100 people who work in a flower farm or whatever. But they are just another person like you looking for a job. But because of their skin color, you overlook that. No, this thing has to probably be looked at in a legal way, and they kick out whoever is illegal in South Africa, you kick them out. That's how I would look at it. It's a bit convoluted how I'm thinking about it, but I am sure you all understand. You have all seen what I'm trying to say. I probably didn't put it very well in words, but it is an experience we live. We live that experience. We see how we behave ourselves. I thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ndebe, bringing out that element of white privilege and how the elite employ this kind of reasoning in order to cement their place in society. We are looking at the effects of anti-immigrant backlash in South Africa or even here in Kenya. What do you think happens when you push back against immigrants? Let's hear from Hugo and then Muriuki.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So reason why I said it's not a xenophobia thing, if you can literally hear what they say when they walk in those streets, they clearly said undocumented people, okay? So when you say undocumented people, even here in Kenya, we usually complain. It was not even 4 months ago. We saw that Ruto was handing out ID cards to Somalis, and there was an uproar because we know the outcome that will come from those ID cards in the next 2 or 3 years. We're going to be worse if South Africa is. Because when you get an influx of people moving from poor countries into major cities, okay, they will take those small unskilled jobs at a lower pay, okay, and they will internally affect the locals. Because if you're used to take that job at 10,000 and someone comes from Uganda and says, I can do it at 5,000, okay? What has it done to the market of that labor force market of that area? He lowers down the labor force market of that area. And who is affected more? Because you see, this guy, most of these foreigners, they group up into one housing room. We've seen this. I know most Kenyans have seen this. They group up in one housing. You've seen Nigerians do the same. You've seen some Sudanese do the same. You've seen Somalis do the same. This is no different with what people do when they go to South Africa. If I go to South Africa right now, I'm going to live with someone who is a relative. So I am group housing and I'm lowering the market base. While the basic South African is supposed to procreate, create a family, and do whatever, and now he's going into a market that is now saturated with no jobs and so many people that are available. And as an employer, you will take someone who is the cheapest and will do the same kind of job. That's why if you hear those uprising, they mostly target those guys that are in the country that do not have papers to be in the country. And those ones who have the documents, but they are false documents. We have seen some, okay? So those are the main target. That's why I looked into that issue and I was like, this is not technically xenophobia, because if it was hated for fellow Afros, xenophobia or something, South Africa are one of the most aggressive people when it comes to addressing issues. They will have gone to this thing with full force and everything, and it will be chaos. But if you see how they're going into companies, asking, who have you employed? What are their documents? You see, so it's systematically they're going everywhere, checking how you've registered people. That's what they have done. Are you employing people who are registered as work permits? And if someone is registered with a work permit, does that job not have someone in South Africa who can do it? Okay? And we forget in Mwai Kibaki's time, he was doing the same with Indians, if anyone can remember this. He was walking into companies and asking Indians, why am I seeing so many Indians in this company? What are these job titles that cannot be found in Kenya? And he made a law that for someone to have a permit, they have to advertise to Kenyans first. If he misses that job, now he can bring someone from his hometown. You see, it's just that. We're making something look so big, but it's not that big. If you want to see something like xenophobia, look what's happening to England. One crime and they are blaming everyone. In South Africa, crime is done by both sides, whether it's South Africans or whether it's non-South African. But they don't see it. They see it as crime. UK in Birmingham, a Muslim guy stabbed a white guy. The whole town the whole area that has Muslims, every white guy went into that place and asked for all of them to be evicted. That's xenophobia, because they just waited for a spark to enact it. Okay? That's why I'm not into that xenophobia thing. And now to the next topic, because the effect of South Africa, us as African countries, we should be watching it with a keen eye, because it's not happening only in South Africa. It's going to happen in major countries that are scaling up in economy. It will happen in Kenya very soon. It's happening in Nigeria, because you see there's a conflict between Nigerians and Ghanaians. Why? Ghanaians are moving into Nigeria for jobs, and it's starving out the youth who are coming from school. See? Where South Africa is situated, they started by asking, is school necessary when there's no jobs? Right now, what are kids asking in campus? Is school necessary? Because you see, jobs are the pinnacle of the economy. When your locals don't have jobs and they're seeing foreigners having jobs, there will be a problem. Okay? Thanks.
Okay. Wow, some very interesting remarks there. Follow-up question, which you will answer the next time you speak, Hugo. Do you think then that foreigners should only get jobs in Kenya? Because you gave the example of Kenyans here, of the immigrant situation here in Kenya. So do you think that we should only give jobs to foreigners when every single Kenyan has been employed? That's a question I pose to you. Will answer it in the next contribution. Let's hear from Morioki. Remember, I see Eugene has joined us. Karibu. Remember, the question we are now answering is, what are the effects of anti-immigrant backlash in the country doing it, as well as the targeted countries? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lucas. There's this stereotype about black people. They have self-hate. No, the effect is people are seeing Africans have self-hate. When they look at South Africa, they'll say that you hate your own people. So that thing of Africans hate themselves will be empowered. Because I remember this Malema was saying he used to kill the boer, kill the boer, kill the boer. That's not right, but it makes sense. But it's wrong because they are white. Now these South Africans, they are chasing fellow Africans out of their country. Okay, they are foreigners, but they are still black. So it shows like Africans hate themselves. Thanks.
It's creating divisions among Africans and hatred. Let's hear from El Maestro.
Yes, I want to maybe to add on to what Muroki has said, but maybe then give a practical examples. Like, you know, this it has already even started. This has already started because right now, I don't know. I know, Dorcas, you don't know much about football, but right now the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup is happening right now. South Africa was one of the participants, and the opening match actually was South Africa versus Mexico. And the people were other Africans who are not South African were all of them were supporting Mexico. Like almost all of them, they were supporting Mexico to defeat South Africa. South Africa, yes, they made it to the round of 32, but they were knocked out. And like many Africans, they just literally wanted, they said South Africans, let South African be knocked out. They go back home and find sustainable jobs back home. You know, that is the effects, yeah? This hatred, it has really, maybe that in football it may be banter, but that is it's stemming from hate. And secondly, this set another example. I remember when I was the first time I heard about apartheid. I was doing my degree. The first time I ever had okay, I used to hear I used to hear apartheid, but I never uh, took time to research what was this apartheid. But then in 2021, when I was doing my degree, is when I found out what really was what apartheid was, and it was during a lecture. It was actually a lecturer was one of our lecturers was the one who explained to us what apartheid what was happening. And I remember that day I almost shed a tear listening to what was happening to our Africans those days. I almost shed a tear because it was very inhumane, what they were doing to what the apartheid regime was doing to South Africans. But then now we find that some Africans are actually saying apartheid was a good thing. Some people who are not South African, okay, maybe they are not, they don't mean it literally, but now they start saying you know, actually the what the apartheid regime knew what they were doing. Like, I don't know, maybe some of, I think maybe many of them are not that serious, but no, that is just maybe like to hitting back at South Africans. No, that and you know the South Africans know how bad apartheid was, and they hear another African saying it was not so bad. You know, it breeds hatred among them. So that hatred among Africans is one of the major effects of this xenophobia, or let me say so-called xenophobia.
Aha. It's you strike me, I strike back. So they're boycotting some South African material or content or, you know, culture, etc. Thank you, El Maestro, for that. Let's hear from Ndeve.
Oh, he left. Luchavelel, you can go first, because I'd already spoken.
Luchaveleli, are you back? I don't know what happened. Because
Yes,
you had not spoken at all, never had spoken twice. She is yielding her time to you first, and then she'll speak.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Actually, I don't know if I'm audible. Am I audible? Okay. Now, to me, on the issue on the issue of xenophobia and how if we had anti-immigrant agendas, how it would affect us. First of all, I think, to me, how I take it, I think it's a sign or it's a symptom of a much deeper issue, and that is the failures of the government. All in all, in as much as we can all blame, some of us can blame the foreigner, the illegal immigrant, but that will only happen if we have them having an easier time to cross over the country. And that still boils down to the issue about policies. It all boils down to the issue about management. If it's poverty we are talking about, if it's these low wages that locals are fighting for, the low paying jobs, competing for the jobs with foreigners, you see, we should first start by asking ourselves, why have we found ourselves here? Why am I looking at a job, for instance, if it's Mama Mboga's job, why am I looking at a Mama Mboga's job with, you know, with this avarice, because I want to compete it with a fellow Ugandan over that Mama Mboga job? So I should ask myself, why are we here in the first place? Is it that we don't have any jobs, that I'm even competing with a low paying job with another foreigner who's struggling again to make their ends meet? So instead of you know, being angry to my neighbor right then, I should start by first to ask myself where the failure arises from, because it doesn't make any sense that I will take a panga and then descend on, you know, a foreigner who is again trying to make their ends meet under the guise of they're stealing our jobs. Yes, perhaps someone made a good argument about the market value if we have lots of influx of immigrants taking a local job at a certain place. However, this happens, yes, but it's not really in the sense that these anti-immigrant people are pushing it into. You know, there's a lot of exaggeration, and it's well understood. For instance, I can take it as all of these things that you are seeing, it's more of an impulse. No one has ever sat down to think through the lines, because the facts are saying otherwise. Studies have been done on South Africa, including how the effect of the immigrants and the job value inside in some of the towns in South Africa. And the studies have shown a mixed scenario of empirical data. You can also check it out. So if someone says that we will have a decrease in the market value, it's still not a good enough reason to, you know, have this anti-immigrant protests going on. We should be asking ourselves, why do we have less jobs, yet the government is supposed to be creating jobs? And in the case of South Africa, if we were South Africans, you know, I don't want to push this into an issue of racism, but colonialism is heavily tied into this picture we are seeing right now, because if we have majority of the resources of South Africa being owned by whites, the same people are welcoming Germans like their brothers, but they look at a fellow African who's struggling to do a low-paying job as someone who's stealing all their jobs. You see, there's something is not in order. There's ignorance somewhere, there is poverty somewhere, and poverty, it goes both ways. It's not just of money and resources, it's also poverty of the mind, because if you're poverty in your mind, you will of course find an easier time to blame an immigrant for all your problems that your own government is creating. And when you see, although the government has tried to address the issue, but it's still not doing enough. Yes, freedom of speech, but when do we say it's freedom of speech when we have someone who is, who is inciting others? Because in as much as someone who agrees with this anti-immigrant protest, they will tell you that no, they are targeting the undocumented immigrants. But we have reports, even the documented ones are facing threats. They are getting killed. So when do we draw the line? When will we be honest with ourselves? Because even if South Africa is going on, we can't really say that yes, we have even xenophobia in Nigeria and Ghana. Yes, it goes on, but we should ask ourselves, why are we having these issues? For instance, why here in Kenya, why should I look at my Somalian neighbor with with these angry eyes because he is stealing my job? And I'm not asking myself, why don't we have enough jobs in this country? It's not that Somali's fault that is taking the job. If anything, am I qualified for that job to begin with? So people are afraid to ask themselves these tough questions. I will say that it is just a lazy thinking, a shortcut of approaching things, to blame all your issues on your immigrants. Because if you kill them, how many jobs will you create for your children, for your siblings, for your people? So yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. Now, on the effects that we will have on this anti-immigrant thing, I think Muriuki has talked about what I was going to say. Again, it will also affect cooperation, not just in World Cup or in this mutual support on things. People will be afraid to invest in your country because you look at everyone as stealing your jobs, so chances won't be there. And there was a time we had this movement known as globalization. Back then, villages were completely isolated, but right now we have technology. We should strive to do away with these lines that, these pathetic colonial lines that don't really serve us towards any good. Because why do I need a visa to travel to my African country, to my neighbor, yet someone from Europe, from Germany, they are welcomed in their country, like there are no repercussions. You see, it's really crazy. And if it were possible, we could wake up our heroes, Kina Nelson Mandela. They will turn in their graves, because is this what they fought for? That when you have someone coming into your country anapata kazi ya mama mboga, and then you want to kill them, is that what they fought for? It's stupid, it's crazy. So yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah, thank you.
A very well put response, Eugene. You echoed the sentiments of Julius Malema, who asked people, now that you have kicked out those 300, is it 5,000? I can't remember the exact number. Let's say he said 500 African immigrants, and they have closed their shops. How many jobs have you created? Have you created 500 jobs in their place? That's the $1 million question. Yeah. So let's hear from Deve. I'll give my contribution and then now hear from Hugo.
Yeah, much appreciated, Dorcas. Yes, and let us also, while a migrant workforce should be targeted or should be organized, you can't just open your borders, say, to all Somali people to come into Kenya and say sneakily hand them over Kenyan ID cards. That definitely, that is criminal. Let us look at that one. That is criminal. But if somebody is documented and comes in to work, they are not being brought in to vote or sneaky. Here, I think here we have to separate the sneaky with the immigrant who is a worker, who is going to work. So, for example, in the Canadian system, there are people who come here. They come here, they work in the summer, and they go back. And it is a system that has been working. It has been going on for years. And there are also others who come, they are IT specialists, and they come here and they come here with a work visa, and they come here and they work. They can't vote. There are things that you can't do unless you regularize your residence in that country. So I think we have to be sure that we are not talking of people who are brought in by the very same politicians who come in through the back door. So those are not the people. Those are not the people we are talking. We're just talking about the people who just come in. They are not documented, or they came in to visit their aunt and then they stayed. So what I'm saying is that these people who come in to work, or even ni mama mboga amefungua kibanda, they give another perspective of how to do business, and they challenge and they compete with the people who are sitting in their own country and they are maybe too comfortable. And it is very good when there is competition. We do know what competition does. Competition is a good thing. So these new people come in with a new perspective and with competition, and that is good. They bring, in fact, you might think that they have taken one job, but they will bring in something, another way of doing things, and probably bring in the resident of that person. And then they think, we've been living with the bananas here and we did not know that bananas can be taken to the market and people will come and buy my bananas. And then another person will think, wait a minute, I'm going to be growing you the bananas. Now that people can buy bananas, I'm going to be growing bananas in my little plot of land. I remember when I lived in Eldoret 100 years ago, the marketplace of Eldoret was very interesting. It was Wakamba, Waluya, Wajaluo, na Wakikuyu. Wajaluo not as much. There were no Kales. I bet you if I go to the Eldoret market today, there will be Kales who are in the market. Even in Mitumba, where you are not being sold by Kales in Eldoret. So all I'm saying is that the arrival, Mkamba anatoka huko Kitui anaanza kuuza mboga in Eldoret. Hey, the person who is around that area, they are going to be thinking, wait a minute, kwani mimi nimelala. See, so that is what the perspective and the competition, which is good. Yeah, I'll finish it at that. Thanks.
All right. Oh, so sorry, I have dropped my light. Yes, that's a very interesting angle that many people ignore. You know, when you go for protectionism and policies along that line, you miss out on the benefits of migration that can occur. Now, let me give my contribution before we hear from Hugo. And by the way, the next thing I would like us to talk about is solutions, because we have about 15 minutes left. So let's consider that as I speak. First, in response to what Hugo talked about, actually, this is a common narrative here in Kiambu County, where I currently live. I'm in Mwihoko, which is close to Githurai 45. We have a lot of Burundian immigrants. I don't know whether they're documented or undocumented, and a number of them, because Burundi is one of the poorest countries in the world, they have a very unstable political system. So they are fleeing their countries for better opportunities in the region, and some of them are coming to Kenya. I see that they do a lot of the informal or low-skilled jobs that exist. Many of them are entrepreneurs. I usually love buying mandazis from two Burundians. Actually, they're stationed on the same road, but in different locations. I buy from them the mandazis. I don't think of them as threats because they are adding value. The market is blind. It's blind to your tribe, to your nationality, to your race. The market cares about the value that you add. So if we feel threatened by their presence, or the South Africans that feel threatened by the illegal, by the immigrants in general, then we need to ask ourselves, what is it? What is the problem? The problem is jobs. Yeah, we are saying they are taking our jobs. So why don't we work on baking a bigger cake? Those immigrants only contribute a small percentage to the shortage of jobs. It's very small. As I said, for South Africa, only 4% of the population consists of immigrants, both African and non-African. So yes, they might be taking some jobs, but they are a very small piece of the pie. The issues of unemployment of those jobs are predominantly caused by the systemic issues that I had addressed earlier and many of you have addressed before. Now, let me speak about effects. Yes, I agree with El Maestro that a number of countries are boycotting South African services and goods. So we saw that with the World Cup. We are seeing that with Amapiano. Oh my goodness, I think South African music is legendary. I grew up in the 90s and 2000s. So all the songs, we knew them for the Kwaito, those freedom apartheid songs, I loved them. Yo, sielele mama, uelele siyo. I loved them, yeah. And even now, Amapiano, I think is awesome. Bulantwe, bulantwe, bulamasifa, lamasifa. I love it. But unfortunately, it is costing many of their artists. We are hearing that their bookings are being cancelled and their shows are not having any attendance because people are saying they are kicking us out of their countries, so we might as well stop supporting them. And this might continue if it persists, the anti-immigrant backlash persists, then people might boycott their companies. There are a lot of South African companies that operate in the African continent, like MTN, like DSTV, like the Standard Bank. You know, people might decide we don't want their services, and this will hurt them tremendously. Even foreign direct investors might think twice because they would perceive South Africa to be a hostile environment to foreign investors. Yes, Hugo was saying that the backlash is against illegal immigrants, not legal migrants. Why? That is the PR version. That is the one that they say when a microphone is put in front of them. But behind the scenes, they don't want any migrants. That's why they're looting shops. They don't even care whether you are legal or illegal. They were looting the shops this past week. You know, they use terms like makwerekwere, which is a derogatory slang term for non-Black South Africans. I mean, Black non-South Africans. You see, even the Abahambe, it has those negative connotations. When people are whipped up emotionally, they don't really focus on nuance. They don't go, okay, we're going to look at their documents. Do they have documents? Yes. Okay, we leave them. Do they, these ones, are they illegal? Okay, now we kick them out. No, they just go for everybody. That's the problem. Yeah, there's vigilantism and violence which occurs because of this emotional aspect. It just exaggerates the the impact of the immigrants, and so they sweep everybody under the rug or under the blanket, the umbrella. They sweep everybody under it. Whether you are legal or illegal, you'll be affected. Things will be so hostile for you that many legal South African immigrants, or many immigrants in South Africa, are reconsidering their stay there. They are actually leaving. So don't buy into that narrative that it's clean and clear cut. Apana. On the ground, they just want all the makwere out. Another impact, and I will leave it there after discussing that one, is what is this? I wanted to add. Yeah, they will get a hit on their economy. I wanted to say that immigrants in South Africa make a significant contribution to their economy. According to some statistics, it is between 17 to 27%. Yet, they only account for 4% of the population. Whereas some, according to this statistic, I don't know how reputable it is, but it's saying for the Black South Africans, it's 8% contribution. So in as much as they are against them, those guys are contributing to the economy because they pay taxes and they also create jobs. Yeah. What Ndeve was saying, there's something about immigrant culture. There's a way immigrants tend to be aggressive. Even Kenyans, I'm told that in South Africa, the way they do business is a bit laissez-faire. You know, they'll open at 9 a.m. and close at 5. But the Kenyans, hey, we will be available throughout. We'll sleep at the backyard, you know, at the back room. And if somebody knocks, you're going to open. You see, we are aggressive and we are bringing something different to the economy. So instead of protectionism, instead of saying, we don't want those people here, like, let's learn, let's be competitive, let's acquire those skills and qualifications that these qualified immigrants have. Granted, there are some porous border issues. As Eugene said, that's a policy matter, but let's not ignore this significant economic contribution that the immigrants are making. Thank you. Let's now hear from Hugo, then we'll go to Morioki. Thank you.
Thank you. And first, I am not against immigration. I actually love it. But the problem is uncontrolled immigration is a problem. Africa is an open border. People cross along because most of us don't fly through countries. Some people walk or drive through them. Okay? And when you do not have a structure on how to control who is in your country, what they're doing, and how they contribute, it will build up slowly with time. Okay? And that's why I'm saying South Africa does not hate their foreigners. This is a country that gained democracy in 1994. To me, it's a very young country. It's still bleeding from apartheid. And then you now have influx of people who are not originally bleeding from the same blood that you're having, and they're just there gaining your jobs. You see, this is a failure from their government, from not building structures that can help them to check, is this immigrant important to our economy? Is this immigrant not important? See, if you regulate immigration, it's even better. It will help the nation. But the problem is most of us African country, there is no migration rules. You'll only see it when a criminal from another country is caught for doing some crime. Okay, a Nigerian is doing wash here, is caught and then deported. After that, there's nothing. Okay, so I don't hate immigration. I like it. It's a good thing for every country because every other nation comes into your nation with something new that you do not have. Okay, And that's something new. It's supposed to be exploited and helps the nation. So I only seek if there is regulations, it will be better for the nation. And you asked me a question, should Kenya just make sure before they employ a foreigner, they should start looking at their country? I'm for it. I would love that everywhere. If it's not necessarily a corporate job or any other job that requires you to have a KRA certificate, they should force those companies to entirely start their job search from the Kenyan market before someone asking someone from another country. It should only allow you if it's something specific or specialization that cannot be found in Kenya. And that is okay. That's the best I can say.
All right. Thank you, Hugo. He's not against migration, he's against illegal migration and porous borders. Right, let's hear from Murioki.
Thanks. I think like Hugo is saying, to be fair, if you are South African and you can do the job, give the person who's the country, like the person who belongs to the country, give him the job first, give him a priority. That's only fair. So if you can't do it, give it to somebody else. So give the person of the country the job first. If they can't do it, give somebody else. So that will stop all this unnecessary fighting. Then also education. South Africans, I think, during apartheid, there was no schooling because there was so much fighting. They didn't go to school. So I think they need a lot of education. They need to be enlightened. Because now what happens? People from other countries take advantage because they were going through so much fighting. They didn't go to school. They were shut down. So I think South Africans need to be more educated. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Murioki. Let's hear our closing remarks as we give solutions. Closing remarks as we give our solutions. Hopefully, we'll do that in the next 5 minutes. Closing remarks, guys. Okay, Deve, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciated, Dorcas. So as long as things seem to be out of control, of course, people are going to feel pushed to a corner, particularly at a time when the economy is not very good. And so in a way, maybe the South African government is overwhelmed or it has lost control of the immigrant, the people coming in, or who comes in, who stays out. But I think they still are able to. They still can do whatever they have to do, and there are some rules. For example, and even sometimes Canada is unable to cope with it, particularly people who commit crimes, sending them back and making sure they don't come back. But even Canada has been unable to keep criminals out, because somebody is sent back, particularly the Caribbeans. Somebody is sent back in the Caribbeans, they go back, and you know how it is, eh? My name is Ndeve, so and so. I come back and I am, I'm Dorcas Mary or something else. I come back with another name, with another passport. Because in some countries you can create another personality, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Then that criminal is found again back in Canada. Then when they are arrested again, and you take their finger, their fingerprints, it's the same guy. What are you doing here? How did you come back? And so they found that the guy went to Jamaica, came back under a different name, and so forth and so forth. So the governments have a responsibility in making sure who comes in and who doesn't come in. If you need IT people, if you need 1,000 IT people, well, don't bring in 1,000 people to work in the market. First of all, bring the 1,000 people, IT people. Maybe their wives will be the market people. I mean, that kind of, I'm just talking about that kind of regularization. I'm going to give an example of a problem that has pervaded Canada recently. So in Canada, we have some social supports. For example, there is the food bank. Food bank is one of the social supports that the people, if you are completely like you are really, really down and out, you go to the food bank. But it used to be that getting welfare. I remember when I came here as a student, one of the ladies that was working with the newcomer students told me that we were close enough. So she told me at one point that at one point she had to go on welfare, and she was really, because she was still young, maybe in her 20s, and she was very, very ashamed to have to go on welfare. So food bank is the same, that if I have to go to eat from the food bank, I just gotta have to cover my face or something like that. It's like last resort. But it has happened now in Canada that the people who come to the food bank, they come in these new SUVs. I was about to call it in French. They come in these new SUVs, and they are coming to the food bank, and they are mostly immigrants. And so the food banks all over the country have noticed something very weird, that there are people who obviously either have very good jobs or have very good cars, and they are eating from the food bank. Now, the worst was yet to come, and the worst has come in this year or something. The Indian students, I'm going to say Indian students because they are the ones who put it in YouTube. And they are saying, oh, don't buy food. Look at us. We got a food bank and and they put it in YouTube. So, of course, we notice I do donate my food, my beans that I harvest. I do give it to the food bank. And I'm thinking, what?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. Yes. So now I am saying, why should I give my beans to the food bank? Why don't I just take it to my neighbor directly and cut out the food bank? If that's how the food bank is being misused. So I am just saying that, yes, newcomers might do things that the old folk, the people of the country might not do. But then again, now you have to teach them to let them know that, no, we don't do things this way. In our country, this is how we do things. So, yeah. Thank you. A good topic, difficulty, but yeah. Thank you very much.
Indeed, it is very nuanced. It is not black or white. Let's hear from Luchebeleli. But please keep it within 3 minutes or less.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Now, when it comes to the possible solutions that I can think of, I think I can start with the secondary solution and then finish with the primary one, which I will say why I will finish with that. Now, most of them I think David has talked about. Yeah, we can also fix the main issue, which is the job creation. That's the one which gets everyone's attention, because jobs are everything. Jobs are everything in any country. Now, if we focus on job creation and economic growth and even better public services, I think we wouldn't be desperate enough to have time to fall into the desperations of blaming everything on the immigrants, because we would have quenched the thirst that we had as a nation. People are not getting jobs, so people will resort to crime and so on and so forth. So apart from that, I think also issue of strengthening the policies, having people in power, people who actually care about your communities. not people who once they are bought or once they are bribed, they focus on something totally different, ignoring entire communities. And that's what's going on in South Africa. I think if you're even on a plane, you can actually tell where we have white South Africans and where we have black South Africans, because entire communities are marginalized, and it's so bad you can actually see them over the entire map. That's how serious the issue is. And when you look at developments, they only focus on one area while the other areas, they are completely ignored. When you look at healthcare in South Africa, we have the private sector and the public sector, and the public healthcare. Now, the public healthcare is totally ignored. We have issues about drugs, we have congestion, and all those chaotic manner of things. While the private healthcare, we have people who can afford, majority the white South Africans. So you can't complain once you are in the private healthcare. So you can see where the grievances are. So even if they try as a nation to try and sort all other issues like job creation, but they ignore the dark legacy that's going on, the legacy of apartheid. Someone else has mentioned apartheid. That's very good, because what's again going on, that's a dark legacy going on. You see, once we had schools of colored, we had people going of a certain color going to this school, and white South Africans going to this school. We did away with let's say things like apartheid, but right now we still have the same cultures going on. So we have communities that are known as white communities, while we have the township schools where we have majority of the black children, and those are the schools that are totally ignored by the government and developments and all that. So you see, even if we totally ignore that central issue, the dark legacy that's going on, and we focus on other things, we won't really deal with the xenophobia issue at hand. Because to me, I think we have xenophobia in its worst form. It's not entirely its fault, the fault of apartheid, but entirely it has everything to do with apartheid. So that's what I'd say. Yeah, so those are some of the solutions that I'd offer. And lastly, fixing the monster that is the legacy, the dark legacy. So again, if I were a president right there, being a dictator, perhaps things like community integration, because you can't live for 100 years. Black community doesn't integrate with the white community. For 500 years, will you have black communities? We wouldn't have any development. So I think communities should be enhanced, should be made to integrate, whether it's sports, whether it's these gatherings and all, because the way it's going, we will still have a majority owning majority of the resources, the white majority, and the blacks fighting amongst the little that's remaining, and then blaming everything on the immigrants. So yeah, I think that's all I can say.
Very well put, Eugene. Thank you so much for your contribution. Let's hear lastly from Morioki, the man of few words.
And lastly, I want to say, before you go to South Africa, think of your country first. So before you go to South Africa for a job, think of your country, then go there as the last resort. Thanks.
Morioki is giving a warning to people looking for opportunities elsewhere. Don't go looking. Okay, El Maestro has raised his hand. Okay, speak then.
Yes, it was the final remarks. The
Yes.
final remarks, there's also something we didn't talk about, it was about tourists, the tourist attraction in South Africa. If things continue like this, tourists in South Africa will reduce, and that will affect their tourism industry. Like right now, many Africans who maybe dreamt of visiting the most visited place in Cape Town. Cape Town is one of the most visited cities in Africa, and mostly is visited by Africans themselves. So the tourism industry, it will take a hit if it already isn't taking a hit at the moment. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
indeed. Okay. Great, great contribution there. And indeed, tourism accounts for a significant portion of the South African GDP. So it is important. Let me give my contribution. Hopefully I'll do that in 3 minutes and we can call it a wrap. I believe that one of the major solutions in the near term would be to ensure employer compliance. Hugo had mentioned the example of how employers in a certain country can take advantage of desperate immigrants to pay them the least amount possible. However, we have minimum wage laws in every country. You're not supposed to go below a certain amount. So if employers are paying immigrants, illegal immigrants, less than the minimum wage, they're doing something illegal too. There needs to be enforcement. Employers need to be, okay, Hugo, you've raised your hand. I wanted to be the last speaker. We are really out of time. Can you give it like a minute? Can you give your closing remark in a minute? Okay, you have lowered your hand because we are really out of time. Yes. A minute?
Sorry, I didn't know we were closing, okay? I want to give you an example in America, okay? Whatever South Africa is going through, they are going through it. You see, there are wage laws, okay? But if you see in the farms in USA, they're employing those Mexicans at a minimum wage with benefits, okay? This is the same thing that is happening in South Africa. Same thing that Indians are doing here in Kenya. You just need to add the word benefits to a minimum wage and you have killed your whole economy for the locals. See, my solution that I would like to put across is Africa needs to go back to dictatorship. No one will like it, but we need dictatorship. Democracy was never born or raised in Africa. We had our own ways of doing things, and I think structured dictatorship can do wonders in Africa. I hate the Rwanda president for extending his whatever, but his kind of dictatorship is making Rwanda a destination. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo, for your contribution. Now that one of the United States hiring illegal immigrants, the jobs that the immigrants do, especially the ones from Mexico and Latin America, they're jobs that Americans don't want to do. That's the thing. Of course, they shouldn't hire illegals, but they're jobs that Americans don't want to do. Anyway, back to South Africa. Yes, so I was saying we need to enforce laws, employment compliance, so that they don't take advantage. We also need to work on porous borders. They need to fund their Home Affairs Department, which is the one responsible for giving documents to people. They need to expedite the process and either give documents if they see that there's no value, this person is creating, maybe this person is not creating jobs in South Africa, then they can deport them. But they need to be more efficient because there's a huge backlog. Some immigrants were saying that they go there, they've been going there for the past 3 years. They keep getting these temporary documents from the Home Affairs Department to tell them, you wait for us to process your document, but they haven't done it for like 3 years. So there's a lot of inefficiency in the Home Affairs Department. They need to improve on it. And they need to make sure that their borders and that they enforce border control, because that is indeed a cause for concern. With that said, my bottom line is the issue of immigrants taking South African jobs is misdirected and overblown. As I said previously, statistically, that narrative is not supported. 4% of the population in South Africa consists of these migrants. They are both documented and undocumented, that 4%. So if they deported all the immigrants, 4% of them, we would still be left with 96% that 96% that are dealing with unemployment. You see, even if we assumed that all the immigrants are taking jobs that South Africans could do, which is highly disputable, as we said, there's the element of skills and job creation by migrants. But even if we held all those factors constant and eliminated all the 4%, we'd still be left with this 96% that have not tackled the issue of unemployment. It is overblown and it is a distraction from the major issue, which is corruption, bad governance, and the legacy of apartheid in South Africa. They need to fix their law enforcement, their criminal justice system, because it is often complicit in crime, and then crime leads to further poverty. They need to fix their education and healthcare systems, because these ones also contribute to unemployment, because jobs is the problem. Let's focus on the root cause. Yeah. So jobs, they don't have jobs. They're blaming the immigrants for taking them. No, the issue, the major cause of unemployment is not the immigrants. The major cause is bad healthcare management, bad education, corruption. Money that is supposed to build infrastructures is instead directed to private coffers. That's why South Africa is suffering from perpetual blackouts all the time and other embarrassing problems that a country of its caliber should not be facing. So let's deal with that. Let's deal with governance. Let's deal with the criminal justice system. Let's deal with all those problems that are predominantly by the South African nationals. Let them stop engaging in these sideshows and all will be well. I hope that we've also made a contribution to the issue. I know some people will be watching from South Africa. Many tend to insult you if you don't agree, if you don't push their narrative of immigrants are the problem. I see in the comments.
Okay, I wish Bolelang was here.
Yes.
But don't know why.
Indeed.
I wish he was here
Indeed.
to at least to give us more perspective.
Yes, I invited him. He is our resident South African SAS-K member, and he's very active. Unfortunately, he didn't respond. He blue-ticked my message. I sent him our flyer. I told him we're discussing South African anti-immigrant backlash. We want to hear from you. But he said, he didn't say anything. So maybe he was busy today. Nonetheless, thank you so much, everybody, for your contributions. I think we have exceeded the time by 15 minutes, which isn't too bad. I appreciated your input, Hugo. It's always good to have somebody representing the other side, because I felt like you are more for the pro-anti-immigrant side. So I'm glad that we heard from you, and we look forward to having you in future discussions. Thank you so much, Lucheveleli, for your input. Ndeve, it was also very in-depth. El Maestro, Morioki, and all the silent listeners there in the back. Let's meet next week. Please remember to make your contributions towards our video shoot. We will be meeting next Sunday at Myra Residences, Kilimani, not the Sunday for tomorrow, the other one of 12th July. I look forward to seeing your lovely faces. Have a good night, everybody.